the shadow among peaks. The village of Calethorn clung to the mountainside like a secret no one dared to speak. Stone cottages with moss-covered roofs huddled together beneath towering cliffs, their windows shuttered tight even during the day. Smoke rose in thin, cautious tendrils from chimneys, but it carried no scent of hearth or home, only warning. By nightfall, everything fell silent. No birdsong, no barking dogs. Just the heavy stillness that came before the roar. The beast had returned. It came down from the crags when the stars were blotted out by cloud. First, a low rumble in the earth, as if the mountains themselves stirred. Then the fire, flickering red across the darkened sky like hell had cracked open. And finally, its cry, a deep, shattering roar that echoed for miles and scraped against the soul like a blade. The villagers called it the Flame Walker. Others whispered names too ancient to repeat aloud. All agreed on one thing. It was no ordinary monster. Towering and hunched, with fur blacker than the sky and muscles like steel cords. It walked like a man, but fought like a demon. Curved horns spiraled from its skull, and from its clawed hands dripped fire that scorched the earth. Children were hidden. Altars lit. No one slept. Lisa Lothis stood alone at the edge of the village, watching. Her long coat fluttered in the wind, though no breeze stirred. In her hand she held a cracked amulet, its red gem faintly pulsing as if trying to match the rhythm of her heart. "They think it's a punishment," she murmured to herself. But punishments have reasons. Behind her, doors slammed shut. No one greeted her. No one offered her shelter. She didn't blame them. The betrayal that stained her name ran deep. 3 years ago, soldiers had come. She had brought them. With hopeful lies and empty promises, she had led the outsiders into Calethorn, desperate to save her people. But the soldiers had sought something else. They found it in the old shrine beneath the mountain. Whatever spell or seal they shattered had woken the beast. And since that day, the valley burned. Lisa's eyes followed the distant glow. Flames danced far above the trees, small, controlled. The beast wasn't hunting tonight. It was pacing, waiting. She turned, walking back to the empty cabin on the edge of the village. Inside, dust coated the shelves and spider webs traced the corners like forgotten maps. She didn't light a fire. Instead, she sat at the small table and opened the book she had carried for years. Runes of Binding, the language of beasts, the ritual of spirit speaking. Her mother had once been a spirit caller, one of the last. She had said Lisa had the gift too. But Lisa had refused that life, chasing dreams of cities, power, and answers. In the end, all she brought back was destruction. She flipped to a page marked with a dried leaf. A single line, scrawled in blood-red ink, drew her gaze. He who burns with rage does so not from hatred, but from loneliness too vast to bear. The amulet in her palm pulsed again. She closed her hand around it, trembling. Outside, the beast roared again. It sounded closer. Lisa stood. She would go to it, not with blades, not with fire or spells, but with her voice, her truth. Not to destroy it, but to understand it. The wind howled as she stepped out into the night, the mountain path stretching before her like a scar across the land. Somewhere beyond the cliffs and ash, a monster waited. And perhaps something more. The woman with wild eyes. The morning after the beast's roar felt hollow. Smoke still hung in the air, thin and clinging like guilt. The villagers emerged from their homes with eyes downcast, inspecting charred fences, shattered stone, and the ashes of what once was a grain shed. No lives lost, not this time. But the fears settled deeper with each passing night. Lisa walked through the village unnoticed. Not out of mercy, out of habit. The people of Calethorn had long ago decided she was no longer one of them. A woman at the well crossed herself and pulled her child close. A pair of boys threw stones behind her back. She didn't react. Let them hate me, she thought. It's easier than understanding. She stepped into the old temple, once a place of healing and ritual. Now, it was a shrine to fear, symbols of protection smeared across the walls, charms dangling from the rafters like dried flowers. At the altar stood Elder Riven, once her mother's closest friend. "You shouldn't be here," he said, without turning. Lisa stepped forward. I'm not here for prayer. Riven faced her now. His eyes, sharp beneath snowy brows, narrowed. What do you want, Lisa? Another mistake to bury us deeper. I want to stop it. He laughed, short, bitter. You let it out. Do you think a whispered apology will cage it again? Lisa's fists clenched. I didn't know. I thought they came to help. Riven's voice dropped to a growl. You were warned. But you listened to the world beyond the mountains. You chose to believe that what we kept hidden was wrong. She stepped closer. Then help me make it right. My mother's texts. She believed the beast wasn't born evil. Riven's expression faltered. Those were myths. Old stories to comfort frightened minds. Lisa shook her head. They were truths dressed in symbols. My mother wrote that the mountain holds spirits. Some wake as monsters, but others, they remember who they once were. Riven turned away. Your mother is gone. Her time ended with wisdom and silence. Learn from her example. Lisa's eyes burned, not from tears, but from the fire rising inside her. She believed I had the gift. Riven looked back, softer now. If she was wrong, Lisa didn't answer. Instead, she reached in her coat and pulled out a scroll wrapped in worn leather. She unrolled it on the altar. The ink was faded, but the symbols still burned with meaning. A spiral, a flame, a broken horn, and at the center, a child with two faces. A prophecy, Riven murmured. Lisa nodded. A child born of two natures, human and beast, will determine whether the valley falls or rises. You think this is about you? No, she said. I think it's about him. Riven stared at her, silent. Finally, he said, even if what you believe is true, what can you do? Lisa met his gaze, steady. Speak to him, not as a monster, but as someone who knows what it is to be cast out. Riven hesitated, then reached beneath the altar. He withdrew a simple stone pendant carved with runes, old spirit collar markings. He held it out to her. This was your mother's. It may help you survive, or it may do nothing at all. Lisa took it, her hands trembling. As she turned to leave, Riven called after her. If you fail, Lisa, if he destroys you, no one will remember your name with kindness. She paused at the doorway. I don't need kindness, she said. Just truth. Outside, clouds gathered like bruises across the sky. Lisa stood at the village's edge once more, the road winding upward into mist and shadow. She touched the pendant at her neck. The time for silence had passed. She would face the beast not as a savior, but as a mirror, and maybe, just maybe, he would see himself in her eyes. Then, perhaps, the roaring would stop. The valley of flame. The mountain path narrowed as Lisa climbed higher, carved in a stone by footsteps long faded from memory. Trees thinned to twisted roots and scorched trunks, blackened by the fires of nights past. The sky above churned with storm clouds, heavy with the scent of ash and thunder. She pressed forward. Each step felt heavier, as if the mountain tested her resolve. Her mother had once warned, spirits live not just in beasts, but in the land. If you come with lies, the earth will bury you. But Lisa had nothing left to lie about, only a truth she hoped the monster could feel. Lightning cracked above the peaks, illuminating the world in a single strobe. In the distance, framed by crags and molten stone, the valley opened, charred cliffs encircling a basin of fire and ruin. At its center, hunched and still, the beast waited. She froze at the ridge, heart pounding. The flame walker crouched on a mound of stone, surrounded by glowing embers. Fire flickered lazily from his claws as he stirred them through ash like a man tending a dying campfire. The horns spiraled from his skull, black against the haze. His red eyes burned beneath a heavy brow. He had been waiting. Lisa took a breath and stepped down into the valley. The moment her foot touched the scorched ground, his head snapped toward her. A low growl echoed across the stones. Lisa held up both hands. I'm not here to fight you. The beast rose. He was taller than she remembered. Taller than any man, 7 feet, maybe more. Muscles rippled under thick black fur. Fire licked up his arms as he took a step forward, Then another, each footfall sending tremors through the earth. Lisa stood her ground. I came to talk. A roar tore from his throat, shaking the cliffs. Flames burst from his hands and spiraled into the air. The heat seared her cheeks, forcing her to blink away tears. Still, she didn't run. I know what they did to you, she shouted above the wind. I know you weren't always like this. The beast snarled, circling her. His eyes, glowing and inhuman, narrowed. Yet he did not strike. Lisa turned as he passed, keeping him in sight. You weren't born of hatred. You were made of it, created by pain. He stopped. A flicker of something, confusion, maybe recognition, crossed his face. I felt it too, she said. Her voice cracked, but she didn't look away. I betrayed the people I loved. I let outsiders into my home, and they used me. They broke something sacred, and you woke up. The beast tilted his head. I thought I could fix things by running, Lisa continued. But I hear you every night. I feel the fire in your roar, like it's inside me. Silence stretched between them. Then the beast did something she hadn't expected. He sat. The fire in his hands faded to embers. The storm rumbled overhead, but he was still watching. Lisa's legs nearly gave out. She sank slowly to her knees, afraid any sudden move would break the moment. Is this what you wanted? She whispered. Someone to see you? To speak your name, if you even remember it. The beast lowered his head. The wind howled between the cliffs. I don't want to stop you, she said. I want to understand you. And if you'll let me, I want to carry your story, so no one forgets who you were before the fire. The beast exhaled, long, slow, almost human. Lisa closed her eyes. If this was her last night, then at least it would end with truth. But the blow never came. Instead, she felt warmth, not from flames, but from something deeper. A presence, a heartbeat. When she opened her eyes, the beast had drawn closer. He sat just a few feet away, fire gone, breath steady. For the first time, she saw not just a monster, but a man lost inside a cage of fury. And maybe, just maybe, he was listening. Where fire sleeps. Lisa awoke to the sound of rain tapping against stone. She was lying inside a narrow cave, its walls blackened with soot, but dry and warm. A faint orange glow flickered nearby, embers smoldering in a ring of rocks. Her coat had been draped over her like a blanket. She sat up slowly. The beast sat near the mouth of the cave, staring into the storm as if waiting for it to speak. His back was to her, massive and still. The flames that once danced along his arms were gone. In their place, thick scars wove through his fur, some fresh, some ancient. She rose, careful not to startle him. But he didn't move. Why didn't you kill me? She asked, her voice hoarse. The beast's head shifted slightly. A grunt. Not quite a word, but not animal either. Lisa stepped closer, the pendant her mother once wore swinging at her chest. I didn't think you'd listen. He looked over his shoulder. His red eyes were dimmer now, no longer burning, just watching. I meant what I said, she whispered. I want to understand. To remember you as something more than a shadow. He grunted again, then raised a clawed hand and tapped his chest once. Lisa blinked. You remember who you were? Silence. Then he turned toward the fire and dragged a thick finger through the ash, drawing symbols, spirals, jagged lines, and a single, shaky figure. A child. Lisa knelt beside him. That's you, isn't it? The beast nodded. She traced the drawing with her fingers. You were born here, not summoned, not created. He tapped the spiral again, then pointed to the mountains. Lisa's breath caught. You were left here. The realization settled over her like falling snow. Someone abandoned you. A child, alone in this place. A low growl vibrated in his throat, quiet, sorrowful. Lisa's eyes stung. No one heard you cry, did they? He stared at the fire. Slowly, he raised his hand again and held it out. Not to strike, but to show her. Flames sparked from his palm, flickering weakly, then vanished. You don't want to burn things, Lisa whispered. It's just all you have left. He closed his hand slowly and let it fall to his side. She reached into her satchel and pulled out her mother's scroll, unrolling it across the cave floor. My mother believes some spirits become monsters when they're silenced too long. That fire, when left with no voice, becomes destruction. He didn't respond, but his breathing slowed. He was listening again. Lisa looked at the cave's walls. Symbols had been scratched into the stone, years of them, maybe centuries. Some were childlike, others fierce and wild. But they told a story of isolation, of grief, and rage shaped by time. "You weren't born evil," she said. "You were forgotten." The beast looked at her. For the first time, there was something behind his gaze. Recognition. Sadness. A shared pain. Lisa placed a hand against his fur-covered arm. "You've carried this alone for so long. But you don't have to anymore." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The fire between them dimmed into warm coals. Then, with surprising gentleness, the beast reached forward and touched the pendant at her chest. His claw traced the rune etched into its stone face. Lisa covered his hand with hers. "You knew my mother, didn't you?" The beast nodded slowly. Tears slipped down her cheek, not from fear, but from the weight of finally seeing him, truly seeing him, for what he was, not a creature of hate, but a soul scarred by abandonment. "I'll help you remember who you were," she whispered, "and maybe we'll both find a way to forgive ourselves." Outside, the storm began to clear. A sliver of dawn touched the peaks, casting golden light through the mouth of the cave. Inside, where fire once raged, it now quietly slept. Beneath the ash a name. By sunrise, the valley was still. No smoke rose from the cliffs. No flame carved paths across the land. Lisa and the beast stood together at the edge of the scorched basin, where the soil still steamed from the night storm. In the pale morning light, the creature no longer seemed monstrous. The black fur that once shrouded him like darkness now shimmered faintly with dew. His horns cast long shadows, but they no longer loomed with menace. He stood tall, silent, watching the world he had scarred. Lisa clutched the pendant in one hand and the scroll in the other. Her voice was steady, but her heart trembled. "I need to know your name," she said. The beast didn't respond. Lisa stepped forward. "Everyone deserves a name. A true one. Not what the villagers call you. Not what the soldiers called you when they chained you. Yours." His eyes met hers, the fire within them dulled but still present. Flickering, not to burn, but to remember. He knelt. With one clawed finger, he etched a symbol into the soft earth. 3 marks, intertwined like flame and wind. It was a name not spoken in words, but in the language of spirits. Lisa stared at it. "Cern." The beast blinked slowly. She had spoken it right. "Cern. Not monster. Not demon. Cern." Lisa knelt beside the mark. "You've carried rage like a weapon for so long. But now that I see you, I see someone who was never meant to be feared." Cern rose and turned toward the cliffs. In the distance, faint voices echoed. Villagers. A search party, perhaps, drawn by the silence after so many nights of fire. The world had noticed the absence of terror. Lisa touched his arm. "They're coming." Cern looked toward the mountains. His breathing quickened, but he didn't move. "Not yet. They'll be afraid," Lisa said gently. "They don't know you've changed." He glanced at her, uncertain. "You don't have to stay," she said. "But if you run, they'll only remember the fire." She turned to face the path descending to Calethorn. The village she had betrayed. The people who had cast her out. She had come here seeking forgiveness. But perhaps what she had found instead was understanding. That was enough. "If you want to leave," she added softly, "I won't stop you." Cern took one step back. Another. Then he paused and dropped to one knee. Lisa blinked. "What are you?" He picked up a charred stone and began to carve. Not symbols this time. Letters. Crude, rough, but unmistakable. Elise. Her name. He looked at her, then tapped his chest. Her breath caught. "You want them to know I stood with you." He nodded. Then he turned, slowly, and climbed back into the cliffs. His steps were light, his fire quiet. He did not disappear in fury. He left in peace. The villagers found her at midday. She stood alone in the valley, beside the etched stone bearing 2 names. Cern. Lisa. The elders stepped forward, cautious, weapons drawn. But there was no sign of the beast. "What happened here?" Ryven asked, his eyes scanning the empty basin. Lisa looked at them, not with fear, but with clarity. I spoke to him. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Riven frowned. Spoke to him. He listened, she said. He remembers who he was. And he left. You expect us to believe the monster spared you? He's not a monster, she said, voice steady. He was abandoned. Forgotten. That's what turned him into what you feared. Silence fell. Then a small voice, a girl's, asked, will he come back? Lisa smiled faintly. If he does, it won't be to burn. That night, Lisa sat at the edge of the village, the pendant glowing faintly at her chest. She opened her mother's journal and began to write. Not runes, not rituals. A story of a child left in the wild, of fire and rage, of a name buried under ash, and of two broken souls who found each other in the valley of flame and chose to forgive.